a wider scale or being listened to or being watched if it is a TV station, that there is need at this particular point in time to be part of that particular process, that we are trying to support our children and support our country as we move forward. I know the Cabinet Secretary has already mentioned that we are widening the scope of our engagement in terms of our stakeholding so that we can be able to come out with scenarios, and within the next 2 weeks we shall be able to deal with these particular scenarios that may be able to answer some of the questions, including when do we do the examinations and how do we do it. So, Chair, I think if you allow us to be able to expand our scope of engagement, then we shall be able to come out with these particular scenarios. On the lessons learned and the issue of day schooling, I can say we are one of the countries, very few countries, where the phenomena of boarding schools is so huge. In fact, you get worried when you go to some particular places, schools, where children as young as 6, 7, 8 years are put in a boarding school. I think the CS will say that as we move forward on implementing CBC, we are looking to a situation where the first 9 years, maybe from grade 1 to grade 9 of our children, will be domiciled in a day schooling environment so that they can be able to have a continuous and concurrent and parental engagement and being also in a learning school environment. So these are things, though it's not as bad as we might want to think, because 70% of our learners are in a day school environment. 30% of our learners are in boarding school environment. Maybe it is the hype that has been put around it that we sometimes think that most of our children could be in a boarding environment, but it is a critical learning that you are saying, and may even inform the way that we create scenarios on how we move forward. So the other thing here, yes, I acknowledge the question of sanitary facilities. In fact, it has been made worse by the flooding that is there currently. We've seen quite a number of our schools where they may have totally lost their sanitary facilities, toilets, and others. And it is fairly scaring as we move towards reopening our schools, because these are some of the areas that has been totally devastated. I know, and we acknowledge and we appreciate that with the COVID-19, it is a difficult time. We may have lost some of the resources that we would have put into the infrastructure, but we appreciate the bigger picture of COVID. But these are things that, Chair, we are already going to address some of this with our partners. Already the SEQUI program, which is funded by World Bank, in our primary school is focusing on only a single item, sanitary facilities. We are not going to do anything else other than the sanitary facilities. And through the same is that we are working with consultants, we are working with partners from the architectural area, and we have designed a prototype of a toilet that we shall be able to share with all our schools, so that when they are doing a toilet for girls, a toilet for boys, there is one that has been designed. We have also put in the cost of doing that particular toilet, the number of doors and the cost per door. So this has been done, Chair, but we shall, as we move now forward, we shall make sure, learning and taking experiences of COVID, that this will be for sure adhered to, so that you can be able to know about hand washing and all the other things that are required. On the psychosocial support, I think it was asked by Honorable Nyamai, and as part of our COVID response plan, we have put in those particular areas. It is one of the areas that we are working with our partners, and on capacity building of our head teachers and our teachers to be able to provide the psychosocial support. We have already been able to mobilize some resources which we shall use to support our teachers in building their capacity to be able to support our children. They have gone through some traumatizing time. One is separation, the peer separation, that they were not with their colleagues for the last 6, 4, 5 months, that they have been in an environment that they have been subjected sometimes to violence within the home states. We know our girls might have gone through sexual violence. So as they go back to school, as we reopen our schools, for sure, these are some of the areas that we are going to make sure that we build the capacity of our teachers within that particular short time They may not be able to get all the support that they require, but the basic that will be able to support our teachers, support our children, and sometimes even re-engage with our parents as we move forward. CS, I think those are some of the areas I would have wanted to address from not questions, but the comments and the guidance that we got from Honorable Sabina Chege. Thank you.
Chairman, I don't know whether it is in order to give information about something that, let me say it and then you can.
Which information? Maybe it's good.
It is information about sanitary pads. I've just received information from my field officer in Nyamira that sanitary pads were distributed in Nyamira in the month of February this month, and that should also go on record, and we shall all go to the ground to confirm as I give you the list.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I want to open the floor first to the committee members. We'll start with the engineer in Zambia, Honorable Danga, Honorable Pamela, Honorable Jerushamen. Then we have members who are on the online. Dr. Pamela, is she in, or Amos Kimunya? Who is?
Chair.
Just one question on, yes?
Thank you, Chair.
The only thing they didn't touch on is how to share the information. I'd requested, especially the KICD timetable.
Yes.
And all the other
on
channels
publicity, that's an issue that is,
yeah,
it's not even on that alone. It is actually publicity on online courses, online materials, online, and even the radio you are talking about,
yes,
is it?
If you share with the chair,
Yes.
you can share with all honorable members of parliament.
That will be okay.
Yeah, and
so,
Chair, sorry, finally, see, as you mentioned about sanitary towels, and last year or the other previous financial budget, the women reps, were part of the parcel of distribution of these sanitary towels. I just want to encourage you. It's not just enough to be told they're in Nyamira, but even to follow up on where they were distributed. I can tell you when we were distributing, some of my constituencies, we actually got less numbers than expected, but because we were thorough, we actually counted, went and handed over to the schools. Until today, some of those that were not distributed or were not brought, they never came to the counties. So there are scenarios where you have 3,000 girls, and you're told they'll be brought 3,000, but they bring 2,000.
yes.
And so there are those gaps, and I just want to encourage you and your team, please do a follow-up for the sake of our girls.
Thank you on that. So, who is online? Dr. Pamela will start with the Honorable Eve. Let's start with Dr. Pamela, one question, strictly one question. Dr. Pamela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry that I can't hear well from what is happening there, but my question was simply regarding clarification on the issue of the orphanages that the PS was alluding to. The children home, some of them, we are aware that some of the staff, especially those who take care of them and even the instructors, are actually residing within some of them. I only thought that it would be fair that these people continue with whatever instructions that they can give to the children. I'm not sure if the PS is saying that just because the physical learning was declared schools closed, then even the children homes with the teachers who are actually members of that compound and they are all quarantined here, there together, should not continue learning normally. I'm sorry for the rest of the people for the other one. Being able to hear you well, Chair. I want to assume that members who are there will raise my concerns as far as the question that the member of parliament of Murang'a County had.
Thank you. Now, thank you for those questions, Dr. Pamela. Now, Eve Obara.
Thank you very much.
And strictly one question and be brief. Time is up.
Just a follow-up of what Sabina talked about, the university students in particular. My question is to the ministry that should they consider that proposal, that they allow the students who are in their final exams to come back and just complete then could they also be considered for cushioning with the funds that have recently been released? I think I saw that yesterday, that there are some funds that are going to be released to the youth to support them on a daily basis, some 600 shillings or something like that. Could these students also be on that list to be considered? Because many of them kept their houses in the hope that a decision would be made on them doing the exam, and that has not happened 1 month down the line. As you do that, as you think about all those things, please also consider these particular students for cushioning for their accommodations wherever they are, so that they can also be considered and they do the exams. Thank you.
Honorable Engineer Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I would like to ask one question on behalf of our honorable colleague who is not around. And the question is, how will the candidates recover the period that will have been lost? Then I would like to... Yes, that is one question from my honorable member who I was asking for. Then to the CS, as the pandemic, as the situation improves, can you consider recalling only the candidates from 4th and the Class 8 students to continue with studies? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is to really stress on the issue of psychosocial support and counseling and so on and so forth. And I just want again to remind the ministry that in 2016, in this House, we passed a motion to employ and hire chaplains to be able to take them to schools to help our children in the event, like we are seeing, issues of terrorism, issues of drug abuse, and so on and so forth. And the year that followed, that is 2017, the then Cabinet Secretary, while addressing the head teachers in Mombasa, really assured the country that they were going to employ chaplains from January of 2018. So this is something that I would like the ministry really to pick up and see how it can really be implemented, just like the honorable member had suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Honorable Jerusha. And,
thank you, Chair. Mine is on teachers who are employed by BOM, and given that they have not been on duty for some time, some of them are complaining that in some of the public schools, they were being paid as they were working.
Have your mask properly? Yes.
So I'm saying some of these teachers are complaining that up to now they have not received their pays from their BOMs. Is there anything which the ministry can do? Because sometimes these people were getting money from the caption, money which was sent from the ministry, and we are aware that the caption money has been sent. But some of the teachers have not been paid.
Thank you, Jerusha. Let me just give Dr. Kimunya, who is online, to just ask one question very briefly, and then I come to the friends of the committee right away. Yes. Daktari, you are online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There's been quite a challenge on getting to hear what the conversation is in Parliament, and perhaps this underscores the bigger picture in terms of even the training that we're giving to the children across the country. If you're having challenges at our level, then it basically shows that we could be having bigger problems. I could hear Dr. Pamela very clearly, but now when it comes to communicating with Parliament, there is one can only hear voices almost in the background. So perhaps there's a lesson here for across the entire government, that even as we go through this virtual learning, e-government and all that, and e-communication, that there is some further investment that may be required in the infrastructure to communicate the messages clearly.
Is that a comment? Yes. Yes. That is a very good comment. Yes, that's a very good comment, Dr. And I think all of us here, even yesterday, honorable members, and I think the CS is here, that this House are actually trying to discuss a new form of standing orders especially on how to do parliamentary activities, running it online, the way our 200 members are doing. And actually, it's a challenge which I can the ministry, even I know you are also going through it, especially on virtual, e-learning, e-commerce, e-procurement, all across government. So I think this is because of the kind of technology we have. The country is still at a nascent level. We are still trying to build on it. That's why as we move towards the budgetary level, and I think one of the members say this, we really need to invest in this so that we are not going to have problems in future, because COVID has just given us a lot of learning. And as one had said, actually necessity is a mother of invention. We have it now, and we need to invest on e-learning. Even we can do our parliamentary meetings, conferences, and even workshops online without a problem. So I just want to allow the CS to answer those few questions. Then I come back and I start with the other members, the last round of questions. CS, kindly.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be assisted by the CS in charge of early learning and CS in charge of the PS in charge of education. But I will take the one for Engineer Zambia, which is basically amplifying what Honorable Sabina Chege has said. And I've said we have taken that as a major transformation in what we are going to be thinking about. And I will take it back to the committee. And I hope it becomes part of the fulcrum. The other part of the question by Zambia, I'm sure he's just asking, and this is the parliamentary procedures. But we have answered this question. How will the time be recovered? We have answered that many times this morning, Mr. Chairman, and I want to crave your indulgence. Honorable Odanga, yes, we have had contemporary thoughts with a view to employing and providing psychosocial support. I think it is something that is ongoing, and PS Bello Kipsang will expand on that one. May I invite PS Nabukwesi, first of all, to address Honorable Bara's question.
Honorable Chair, universities were about to conclude the academic year and to close their last semester of the academic year. Some students were left with 1 or 2 papers, others were left with 2 to 3 weeks to conclude the semester. Actually, what was left across board were exams. A good number of university students were finalists, and they were left with a few papers so that they wait for graduation after assessment. In our thinking, if the finalists are allowed into university when the situation improves, it will be another way of staggered opening of university institutions so that they observe social distancing, conclude the remaining papers and exams, and start competing for job opportunities, so that they also don't hold space that will be occupied by those who are waiting to join the universities. So that is the situation for now. We are hoping that Kenyans will behave well and COVID-19 will be contained. As we wait, we are also hopeful that since most of the universities were to open in September, they may open a little earlier for the exams to be done so that the normal situation of the university calendar may resume in September, hoping that between now and that time, COVID-19 will have been contained. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
In the same spirit, even though it was not asked, I would want to ask PS Juan, who is in charge of TVET, because I'm aware that TVET also had exams on. Would you like something to say before I invite Billy?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, CS and Honorable members. Just like the other departments, we had a team that was sitting their exam when the colleges were closed. They had finished their practicals. That is NEC exam. They were to start on their theory, and they were stopped in the middle. The scenarios that are being worked on includes that. The possibility of when things get better, they come back to finish the exam, and then proceed to do other things. We had a team that was supposed to sit exams in July. So all these people and all the learners are being included in the scenarios that we are working on, so that as soon as we are given a signal that we can start having a few, then we'll give them priority. Thank you very much.
Just keep saying address Pamela and Mumanyi. Honorable Pamela and Mumanyi.
Thank you very much, CS. Thank you very much, honorable members. On the question of Honorable Dr. Pamela, I think we had somehow clarified on this, but I would want to say that the caregivers in our children homes are the parental caregivers in that particular environment. So if they are both caregivers, they are teachers, and they take care of these children, the engagement that they'll be having within the children's home is a parental engagement. And this parental engagement involves learning. So it is not in a conventional school environment, but in the environment of parental engagement and caretaking, then these kids and their caregivers who are teachers and who stay with them will continue supporting them as part of the parental engagement. So we are not saying that these particular teachers who take care of these particular children in a parental engagement environment, they will continue to provide that particular parental engagement with these children and support them in their learning as they do the e-learning and remote learning that we provide. On the Honorable Jerusha, I think on the POM teachers, it is only 1 month that we have had since we closed the schools. That's the month of April. But we shall still check with our schools to see whether they have any other challenge that they have not paid their teachers. But it is still within the normal time, because we closed only 3 weeks before the close of the schools, the normal closing, which was beyond mid of March. And we've only had this April holiday, so we shall need to check, because there has not been any fundamental change in the school environment up to the time that we are discussing this particular question. So we shall follow up with our schools to be able to know what it is that it would be happening, because we would be looking at challenges maybe in July or June if the schools will still be closed. But at this particular point in time, there should not be any challenge, because the programs, to a very large extent, have not fundamentally changed.
Chair, they are alluding for March and April.
Thank you. Let him finish, and then we can allow you to respond to a few issues. Yes.
I think, Chair, that is what I would be able to say, other than what Honorable Kimunya said in terms of trying to ensure that we invest in the environment in which we are in. I can assure you that we are already engaging with some of our partners, and also within the budgetary allocation in government, so that we can be able to continue investing in facilities and the capacity of KICD to be able to provide this type of remote learning and e-learning as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, was there any more questions? Or they are all? Thank you so much, members. I now give the friends of the committee. I'll
Chair,
start.
Can I ask for permission to leave now?
Yes. I think
Thank you. And lessons learned from the quarantine.
Yes.
As you open the universities, I will urge them to open them, not all of them together, because the young people, when they are out there together, it's very hard to control them. And we know we all have young people. So maybe if some have to go to do the exam, if it's Kenyatta University at its own time, Nairobi at its own time, because once they're out there, it also becomes very difficult to control them. Thank you.
Thank you to Honorable Sabina. You're today really a very good counselor and an advisor. Today you came in very good spirits, and I thank you for that, for the good work. I'll start with the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, Honorable Member for, yes, is it? Yeah. Makueni, and then members Honorable Sotsi, Honorable Peters, Honorable Raso, Honorable Gogo, and Honorable Member for Gishugu. We have members who have just walked in. I will only allow you to introduce yourself and then maybe give you just short session to ask questions. Let me start from member of Siolo. Just introduction.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Rehema Jaldesa, Isiolo County Member of Parliament. I'm here on my behalf and on behalf of Pastoralist Parliamentary Group.
Thank you. Just introduction, your name and...
My name is Honorable Sophia Abdinur, Member of Parliament for Ijara, and I'm here on behalf of the pastoralist community.
Thank you. Yes, Member for Marsabit.
My name is Sophia Sheikh Adam, Member of Parliament, Marsabit County, and I'm here on behalf of pastoralist community.
Thank you. Next, last one.
My name is Nasri Sal Ibrahim, nominated MP. I come from Wajir. I want to represent my people from...
Thank you. Though late, you've come in almost at the tail end. Professor Dr. Nyikal.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also once again appreciate what the ministry is doing in these hard times. But Chair, let me take by first of all clarifying the magician issue. A media house has just sent me an SMS. Can I explain now that Professor Magoa said that I'm a magician? I think that is in jest, and I think it was being friendly. We work together. But normally in the medical profession, we the physicians, whether for adults or children, we make decisions by just examining and listening without opening up to see and treating. So they say that is magic. So they call us magicians. Now the surgeons, we sometimes call them, if they're orthopedic surgeons, we call them carpenters because they have to go and to do. And the urologists like Professor Magoa, we call them plumbers. So it was in that context. But let me just a comment and then a question, we'll be very brief. In the case of scenarios, I know you have epidemiologists are doing it, but going by what is happening in the world, I think the best case scenario is 3 months. That is if we go to places like Germany or Australia. But if we go by the average, it will be 6 months, like what happened in China. Now, what is more probably likely to happen to us is 1 year, going by what is happening in places like Brazil, where things are just peaking in a very horrendous way. We hope we don't go that way. But the worst case scenario is actually 2 years, if nothing happens, like in 1918, the Spanish flu. I mean, whoever is doing your modeling, those would be very interesting to look at. But my questions are in the university. We have basically the same question. Students call us, university students who are at home and call us, and they're saying that the universities are actually trying very well and they're going on with e-learning. But they're facing exactly the same problems like the secondary schools, where some students don't have mobile smartphones, don't have computers, and when they have, they don't have bundles. So the lessons are not really continuous, and we ask them, on the average, what percentage is being covered. And they're saying that their colleagues who go is about 30% who are actually going on with the e-learning. And then they're also saying that it is proposed that exams will be done the same way. So the larger proportion of the 70% are actually very anxious. And some have even said, if we come back, and we are expected to do exams with those who are learning and we are not learning, we will not take it. And I am sure Professor Magoa knows when they say we will not take it, what they mean. So my question is, we have talked very well about secondary and primary schools. What about the universities? What are the policy plans in e-learning and exams that are coming? Also considering that some of the particular exams are very technical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to get members because of time. We've really been seated here almost 4 hours now. I just want you to be very, very straight to the point so that we wind up our sitting. You know, always long meetings are actually not so fruitful as much. So, Manso Dan, Makweni.
Thank you, Chair. It seems Honorable Sabina Chege and the good doctor has been thinking the same lines I was thinking, so I could make a very brief comment and maybe one question. Professor, in your usual announcements, which are very popular in the country, you could probably relay one of the missing links of information that media partners can come forward and volunteer to work with your ministry. I believe, because I know many of them are not aware that they could be helping, and I'm sure very many Kenyans want to help on this. History tells us the future, and although Dr. has talked about it, the first outbreak of this nature was in Marseilles in 1720. It took 3 years because the government wanted to open up economic activities, and the French government really suffered on that one. The 1918 one took 2 years because it recurred. When the governments thought they were through with it, it hit again. And when you see what is happening in China now, they are reopening schools, but they are doing social distancing. And I think if you look at that model of Wuhan now, where they are opening schools, probably we could use the same for examinations whereby, or the two systems where some people could learn in the morning or the afternoon. But this is a disease of cleanliness and obedience. If people observe cleanliness and then they obey all these World Health Organization regulations and government regulations, then it will beat the pandemic. And again, also, this pandemic will only be over when the last person in the world is cured. Because so long it started with one person and it will end with one person. So probably we may have to think either in 2 years or maximum 3 years. Meaning, Professor, at some point we are going to put all our budget in COVID. And the Minister of Education then, of which we are partners, we are your greatest partners as Parliament, we should be thinking now futuristic. How do we prepare for social distancing? Because it is the only way we will open schools. And I think, Professor, if you work with us, we'll be able to assist you with the budgets here, prepare the budgets early for the same, and I believe Parliament will support you, because I believe that's the only way now schools will reopen. Otherwise, Professor, if we work with you, we'll be able to go through this. And it is also through you, Professor, and your ministry, that we are going to secure the future of Kenya. The 15 million children under your custody are the future of Kenya.
Yes.
And let me finalize on this one. And you, Professor, said it. You are now worried about the disease more than anything else. Because if we send our children to school to die, then there will be no need to do any exams or any learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Gogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. If there is anything I've enjoyed so much for this particular COVID period is this particular parliamentary committee session. And you realize, Honorable Chair, I don't want to do a very long story, but most of the things that I was casting aspersions on in the floor of the House yesterday have been candidly addressed here. And this is what we want for our country. This is what we want for Kenya. I even talked about the issue of the radio stations. My sitting here, the thing was asked by, that particular question was asked by another member. It was candidly addressed, who are doing these ones, how it is done, how these people have been selected. I want to thank the Honorable CS for his patience and for taking us step by step, baby steps on answering our concerns. This is the way it should go. Nobody has any bad feelings, nobody has bad intentions, but we are all for the common good. We all have good intentions for the common good of all Kenyans. Now, Honorable CS, Rangwe sub-county does not have a TSC code. And that makes Rangwe be disadvantaged when it comes to staffing. Kindly consider giving Rangwe sub-county its own code so that when you are doing your posting, we have teachers directly posted to our sub-county. We are lumped together with the Homa Bay Town constituency or Homa Bay Town sub-county, and we hardly get, actually, we do not have TSC teachers. So most of our teachers are BOM teachers. So kindly consider that, Honorable CS. And then lastly, you talked very well about the way you are using the radio stations, and it's on a voluntary basis. And Honorable Chege had proposed that you use ones that have wider coverage. I'm worried about intellectual property rights post-COVID. After COVID, are they still going to use those? Are they going to use it for business? It's just good for us to think about it. I'm excited about the idea of the prototype of toilets. I raised this one earlier. Other than COVID, we have other national challenges, and you have said that you have come up with a prototype of toilets. Rangwe is seriously affected by the floods, among other sub-counties that are affected. So when you are considering provision of these particular facilities, please consider Rangwe. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Osotsi, then we go to the member for Ndiwa, and then Honorable Raso, and then we finalize with member for Gijugu.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, the CS and your team, for good presentation.
For purposes of progress, let's be very brief.
Thank you.
Let's be very brief. Yes.
Chair, you will allow me to comment and not ask a question because most of the questions have been asked. And again, we don't have time.
Yes.
The first comment is on use of TVs and radios for learning. I think I've been observing what is happening in other countries, particularly Ghana, where they have come up with one TV station for learning. And I thought that at this time of COVID-19 situation, it gives us a complex mix of both threats and opportunities. And I thought that for uniformity, in terms of content delivery, quality of content, and even supervision by the ministry, they should consider the possibility of using KBC to provide this e-learning. Because KBC has the widest coverage in this country. KBC is doing very badly. This would be an opportunity also of making KBC shine and also giving them some revenue. Secondly, a clarification on the ICT Hub. I sit on the ICT committee, and I remember this House made a resolution that the ICT Hub implementation will be done on voluntary collaboration between the Ministry of ICT and the CDF committees. And as a result of that, very few constituencies have the ICT Hub. I would like to ask the CS at the cabinet level to interrogate so that we have funds which are lying idle under the USF, Universal Service Fund, which can be used to support ICT hubs in constituencies, especially constituencies that do not already have the ICT hub. And lastly, the issue of e-learning, especially for candidates this year. I have seen that some schools, I am a parent in one of the top schools in Kiambu County, and with a candidate this year, and they are able to offer classes online, and is largely out of sacrifice from the teachers. So if the ministry can request the teachers, especially examination classes, to sacrifice and offer some of these e-learning classes, because everyone is sacrificing. We are here as parliamentarians trying to work out of sacrifice. The executive on the other side, they are also working out of sacrifice. So let us sacrifice, because as the CS said, this will require everybody's input. So try and push an agenda of asking teachers to try and sacrifice, especially the teachers who are handling examination classes.
Thank you. Yes, Peters.
Thank you, Chair.
Very short, please.
Yeah, I will be. First of all, I want to say the atmosphere that has set in this last session, Chair, is very encouraging. Because ministry, we are partners here, and we are all concerned, and that should be the spirit. I just want to give you some suggestion in budgetary, because what we are asking you needs money. And I want to show you where your money is. Number one, Ministry of Water. Access to water in schools must be also budgeted in the Ministry of Water. And the Committee on Water will look into that, and that will be a plus for you. You have also some money in the county government, because ECD is devolved. Another money you have is in energy. What you need to do is to make sure you know how many schools do not have power. And then we make sure it is put in the energy. Those are money for education, for your information. The other one is ICT. Make sure you articulate properly what you need in ICT to be budgeted there. Lastly, the donors. So what I'm trying to say, Chair, is that the decision for education will not come from anybody else. We can just improve it, but it has to come from you so that other intersectoral partners can also be. Lastly, I think this is to the peers. If you come to Ndewa, I have over 71,000 students. Most of them are using desks. I think this is the time for desks to go. So in your infrastructure allocation, review that budget. Instead of building more classrooms, and now we are looking for distancing, social and physical distancing, you may also allocate money to buy desks for schools, because that is going to be a challenge, whether we are opening next year or the other anytime. Now, lastly, Chair, my questions have come very clear. I asked about the counselors and matrons and psychosocial support, and PS, you came up very, very well. You have a plan. But in the response I got, the statement was saying there was no plan. And that scared me, because if a child happened to cough and others run shouting COVID-19, then you'll have chaos and wars in school. Sure. So what I'm saying is, we are partners. We don't grill you for the sake of it, but we ask hard questions that provoke thinking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Russell.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to raise two small questions. The first one is, this is about health and safety. Going forward, would the ministry consider public health officers as part of the educational system? Chair, my second question is on the KBC that was raised by Honorable Sotsi. It has wide coverage. But the question I want to raise with the gentleman who actually gave us about the radio is, if there is a program that is out there in terms of saying from 8 to 9, there's this lesson that is coming on, so that is what our constituents, when they wake up on a day like Friday tomorrow, that they are aware that this lesson for Form 2 or Standard 5 will be on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member for Gishugu.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank you, Chair, and your committee for accommodating us as friends in this very good engagement. I also thank the CS and his team for responding to our queries. And I must also emphasize that this is the ministry that we partner with about 80%, hence our concern. My comment is to put weight on what Honourable Member for Muranga, who has left, said on infrastructure. I would bring it in a different angle. Every other constituency represented in this House has an infrastructural demand. Would the ministry, in its budgetary requisition to this House for appropriation, consider allocating money for every constituency using a criteria of numbers, because we represent numbers and pupils are also in numbers, so that allocation is not pegged on a particular project in a constituency, because we also allocate money for projects at the constituency level through the CDF. Once that money is allocated, then the ministry can engage the leadership, so that we don't have a situation whereby we have projects that are overlapping. That is one thing. Secondly, there's another group of people we call laboratory technicians. Every school requires a laboratory. These technicians, practical bit of it has to be done in every examination. Has the ministry ever considered bringing these laboratory technicians as part of the ministry employees for proper for proper engagement and proper coordination of their work. And lastly, Chair, Geshogo constituency, which is the Kirinyaga East sub-county, I'm very much impressed by the CS that once we are over the COVID, interns will also be brought to help in covering the syllabus, and that is very encouraging. But can the ministry also address the issue of understaffing? Because Kirinyaga East, which is Geshogo, I have a problem, and I would probably need to know whom I need to get to and give a list of understaffing, both in primary and secondary level. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy to be part of this team today. God bless you, God bless Kenya, and may God remove COVID from us.
Thank you so much. And I've seen honorable members of parliament from the pastoral community. Because we are almost winding up, I just want to give one with a very burning issue, represent, just give up one question or one opinion. Member for Isiolo? Yes, on behalf of your...
Thank you, Chair, for your kindness and apologies. We were in another committee. I will not want to take the committee back. I will just start from where we arrived in. Mine is just to say that I know a lot was raised. As pastoralist community, of course, the CS knows we had our own unique challenges. That, of course, I know he knows. And having said that, even the issue about KBC and stuff like that will not help.
Maybe for information,
yes.
Honorable Raso really represented you very well and articulated the issues that are actually peculiar to your region.
Thank you, Chair.
So
I know.
Begin from there, yes.
Thank you. I know he's our chair and I know he will. So mine is just two issues. First of all, there was the issue of delocalization of teachers that were done by TSC. Well, it may have had a merit at that time, Chair, but the way the situation is currently, we feel going forward, it may not be the best for us. Why am I saying this? Most of the teachers now have gone back to their counties. And in most of our places, we do not have any teachers around. Even if we will want to have a local arrangement of taking teachers to the radio stations, we do not have. Therefore, I want to urge the CS maybe to relook at that, the issue of delocalization. And lastly, Chair, I want to emphasize on what Mheshimiwa has said. We have a lot of resources. The ministry needs to engage the stakeholders, including development partners. I know in my county of Isiolo, we have UNICEF, we have USAID, which are funding schools indirectly, but there is always lack of coordination. And I want the ministry to be kind enough to listen to members of parliament, because we are not dumb. We have ideas we can share with them that will help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, CS to wind up on this, then and your comments and the other officers, yes.
The majority of inputs were comments, but I will ask PS Kipsang, whose domain this lies mostly to answer. But with regards to university question by Dr. Nyikal, I want to thank him for realizing that I was just joking. We respect each other and we have a 30-year history. It is true that there could be challenges in the delivery of content at university level, but I still deliver content at the university level. And I see all my students, all of them attend. Perhaps it is because of my demeanor, which doesn't take a lot of nonsense. Everybody, in fact, even when I was giving physical, I realized that every student, whether rich or poor, has a laptop on her or his lap to check whether you are talking rubbish. And at the end of the class, they revert back to you, tell you the lecture was good, or sir, you forgot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for universities, it is not going to be as big a challenge as in the lower classes. But having said so, when students say if they are not given content when they come back, it means the content will have to also be given. For those who had completed their studies and were just on the verge of taking exams, I see no conflict, and this lot can also come along with the final year students. Whether or not to, universities are semi-autonomous. When you say universities can open, then they open at their own schedule. It is very difficult to say, well, let KU open today, Maseno waits for another week. That alone, you are creating another problem. So I would want you to understand that perhaps when we take this back to the back room, the larger committee of COVID, these are very good points and we shall deal with them. Again, the issue of opening schools in 2 tranches is coming on, and I think this is one of the most transformative, and I want to thank you for it, because it will, you are giving us a solution. When I came here this morning, I was wondering, okay, you have given us red cards, but you're not telling us what to do. But I'm leaving here a very happy person, because you have provided part of the solution, which we are going to look at, which may even make life easy for us futuristically to continue to keep social distancing. On the issue of Honorable Gogo, I take it very personal, even though TSC is the one who is in charge of teachers, but I'm going to go out of my way to ensure that Director General and the others let us lobby so that the Rangwe can have a TSC code as yesterday. May I leave the others to Dr. Bello Kipsang, and if PS Education wants to add something on university, perhaps you can add, then you finalize.
Thank you, CS. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Fortunately for universities, they were just about to break for the long holiday, and they were basically in the exam mode. Lectures were not going on across board. And in the long term, we are saying that we want to improve the e-learning platforms. We would like the Commission for University Education to accredit it, to give accreditation to the e-curriculum, so that there is even provision for a kind of testing. We also want to strengthen the e-libraries, which should be accessed by students when they are at home. And I think basically that's what we need to do. There are students who are to go for attachment, some of them assigned to different ministries, which are not fully operational, and this has affected them. So we are looking forward to COVID being controlled before September, when the calendar will have started actively, so that universities may not really be affected as much as the secondary and primary schools. Thank you, CS.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think we want to thank the members. Most of what has come out is comments and guidance on the way that we think we can improve as we move forward. So I would want to assure Honorable Kogo that the KICD content is well protected. And even we have given these particular stations that we are working with them specific time frame within which we shall be able to share this particular content, and beyond a certain period of time we shall be able to re-engage on an exit arrangement. On Honorable Tsotsi, yes, we here on the one TV station. I would want also to assure members that we have already circulated the timetable for the term that is starting and the time that we are extending. I think what we shall do is to encourage ourselves, and mainly our colleague at KICD, that we need to look for ways in which we can be able to make more Kenyans access and appreciate which times of the day what particular programs coming in, because these are there, and I know we have already done through newspapers, and we know the reach might not be to everybody in terms of using our dailies, so we shall be able to widen our scope. We are already working with some partners who are also assisting us in making sure that we can mitigate some of the costs of ensuring that we broadcast and make people aware of these particular programs. Thank you very much, Honorable Okello. We shall continue to engage with our colleagues in our other state departments and ministries. I would want to assure you, like on the Ministry of Water, they have a budget line in what they call Water for Schools, and we shall continue working with them so that...
Point of order.
Chair,
Chair, this time is it appropriate for the PS to be giving me names after names?
Maybe not. I think he was not intending. PS is Honorable Peters Matthews Owino. Martin, yes. I'm
very sorry, Chair. I think I've been interchanging Okello and Owino and ensure that we stretch the shilling as much as possible to benefit our children. On the issue of lab technicians, this is a good suggestion. We've added, we shall put it through the process of engagement within the sector and see how this can be done in a better way, because lab technicians are a critical human capital. As we move towards STEM, as we grow up on our CPC and the pathways, I think this will be a very critical area of engagement and discussion. On understaffing, we shall engage with our colleagues at the Teacher Service Commission so that we can deal with the question of teachers, and we can also share with them the worries and the concerns of our members of parliament. Finally, on Honorable Geldesa on the question of delocalization, I think that's been an area that we have put enough thoughts into. We shall engage with our colleagues in TSC, but I think it has, and we shall continue to be able to engage ourselves and perfect it and make it even better as we move forward. I would want to assure you that we continue engaging with our partners. In the last 2 weeks, we have had a lot of engagement with our partners in trying to see ways in which we can work together in this time of the pandemic. And working together, we already have an association and a way of engagement with our partners. And in the last 3 weeks, we've been having meetings twice a week in trying to see how we can work together in supporting our children in this particular time and into the future. Chair, I would want to stop there. CS, I think those could be areas that may have needed our attention. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, mine is to say thank you very much for the engagement and the very interactive session that we have had with the members, and I submit.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, CS and your team. Honorable members, I want to thank you so much, especially for the time that you've taken for this session. It shows the commitment that you have for your people, for this country, and for the services that we need to give to our people. As a representative of the people, I think you've done it well. Members of the Committee of Education, friends of the committee, even members online, Honorable Dr. Pamela, Honorable Dr. Kimunya, they have really done a good job. Members, you know very well that as a representative of the people, you are concerned, especially at this critical time when our country is going through a crisis. The contribution that you have personally made here have made a lot of changes. And I've seen that as an oversight, you oversight the education sector. I think the CS will leave here with a lot of information on how to really deal with this issue. And especially on the professionalism that you've shown. I've seen members here who are very good in ICT, doctors, and even professional teachers who've really come out to give a very good way forward during this time of crisis. Members, as you ask questions, I know it was good that we have this session so that the public and the country is informed, and the CS has actually talked to the nation, especially on education during this time of COVID. So it was actually a very good interactive session. And I've seen sessions where we've been doing a very good way of developing a rapport between members of parliament and the executive. And even a little kidding, you know, in life is a show of affection and is good, where we have learned what the members in the medical field normally say about themselves. But I want to really say this, that COVID has brought in a new normal, especially how classes are going to be conducted in the post-COVID time. The desks, even the e-learning that we really need to build. Honorable Sosia just said, we really need to invest in it and make sure that e-learning is going to be the new normal in the society. Not only in schools, but even in government business taking. Not even in that, but even also in research centers across the country. So we really need to invest a lot in that. And I think, members, we are actually the appropriating arm during the budget making process, appropriate resources well to demonstrate that we are actually at a crisis during this particular COVID session. I know of our students who are in various universities across the globe. The peers and the CS has just given us an assurance that actually they are looking into it so that we don't leave them out there. This is the time when the government needs to show responsibility and to come to the aid of its citizens. So thank you so much. Thank you, Waziri. Thank you, everyone. And we are happy that we have really taken a long time, but we've talked to the country on where we are during this COVID session and what we are doing and what our learners are, so that we really, they are very stressed, especially on the issue of examinations and more so on the issue of others are learning, others are not accessible to the radio. But now you have given us an assurance that we will start from where we left. And the children now have less stress, and even the parents. Thank you so much. God bless you. Asanteni sana, and our session is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and a good day.
Oh, thank you, online members, Kimunya and Dr. Pamela. Asante sana.